Alright guys, such Kremp again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Pred versus OpTic was always going to be a massive occasion. We had Kenny versus his former team last weekend, and Pred was certainly going to bring the energy for the Falcons today, as was XNID, but OpTic were looking to bring their A game, and if they did, they got nowhere near to winning at the end of the day. Some big upsets, but some massive storylines and takeaways for this, especially because World Championship qualification right now is far from guaranteed. Is this OpTic's worst season ever? Is this the worst team and set of teams that OpTic have ever put together? There are some serious questions coming out of today, because I'm sure that many OpTic fans thought they were over the hump after all their drama. That does not seem so clear after today's results. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Let's just crack straight on with Miami, baby, because this series, I'm sure that many OpTic fans are watching this thing and damn, you know, maybe we're not that bad, because they obviously lost OpTic to Miami yesterday, and Miami came out and beat FaZe. Now, FaZe Online are always a little bit of an up and down team. It's just how it is. But I think there's no doubt in my mind that FaZe are not playing the same COD as they were last stage. They look a little bit sloppier. Certainly the hard points, they look real sloppy. And, well, it's clearly holding them back as it stands. They did win the game one, however. So they took down Heretics game one. Super's come into the team, and, you know, look, Super's in the roster now. They should have done this a long time ago, and look, all credit to Heretics. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I mean, I said it when they beat OpTic, right? Like, this team has the potential to be top 3. I mean, if all their players played their best COD every single series, they could be top 3. Like, I mean, they were top 3 in Major 1, right, in Madrid, and technically this is well, it is literally this time, actually, their home event, right? They're out there in, okay, let's say Boca Raton, but kind of Miami, right? It's in Florida. So they're going to look to turn up this time around. I think the issue for Heretics is that they can and they should talk all kinds of trash on the people like myself who are talking down on the potential of this team for a long time. But equally, at the same time, it's kind of a cell phone, because you might argue they should have done this change way, way earlier, right? Like, Super has, it's not like Super's just appeared on the scene. Super has been a Spanish player who's been frying for a very long period of time, as was Rencor. But they didn't make the move until now. Thankfully, they finally have done. They lost to FaZe on the game one. They then bounced back and won the game two. It got a little bit treacherous. I mean, they went up 5-2. Rencor clutched a big 1 versus 1 here against Cellium. Don't see Cellium lose too many 1v1s, but it did happen here. They eventually win it 6-5. It got a bit tasty, let's say, but they did eventually get over the line, and then they won the control, and this was critical, right? This was a huge offensive round here, right? Cellium was having a rough time to start off this map here. They won the offense, and they eventually close it out in a 3-1 fashion in the HyDra and the control, and then we go to a hard point. Now, this was kind of interesting just to note, because looks like Super's laying down here on the stairs. At this point, he's 12 and 20. You know, is he stair glitching it? Is he laying down? Kind of tough to say from this angle, but there has been a lot of talk about players, let's just say, recognizing that they can probably break a GA and get away with it. That's certainly a talking point right now. But again, it's like with OpTic versus Heretics yesterday. There's just no way that if you're FaZe, you can really lose this situation, right? You're up 50 points. You've got control of the hill. Like, how do you throw away a map at this point against Miami after bringing a nice comeback? I will say for the Miami side, when Metals plays like this, they are so difficult to beat, because Real and Rencor, we know what they've been doing. They've been doing it all season. Metals and Lucky were both, I mean, not hopelessly, but they were hopelessly inconsistent, right? Like, you know, you never knew what you were going to get out of either of those guys. Super seems to be, I know he was 14 and 23 this map, but Super seems to be consistently better than where Lucky was. I don't think that should come as a massive surprise. And if Metals can play more often like this, they are a serious force. And they bring the comeback to win this game. I mean, they go like on a 120 run. Metals just had a complete takeover. And look at the comeback from Super, right? Like, at this point, he's 14 in 23. He ends the game 29 in 29. So Super brought a massive comeback, and FaZe eventually go down. Look, obviously there are so many Heretics fans, and for good reason, dropping this in the replies. But again, it's like kind of funny, because Vickle was on the team, and it's not like they didn't have some results with Vickle. But I mean, you could very much argue that the changes they've made now, they probably should have made quite some time ago. But crazy for Super, because he's played 3 series so far. Also worth looking back on the Falcons, right? Because Falcons lost game 5 to Heretics, who were like, wow, it took Heretics 5 maps to beat the Falcons. Maybe Falcons actually, Clayster was kind of cooking when he said that that team was all right. We'll get to that in a second. So in the Falcons game, Super played 3 world champions and XNID. Since then, he's played 8 world champions and he's beaten every single one. So remarkable start to his career really in the league here. And aBeZy with a 0.7, Drazah with a 0.8. Like, aBeZy's been pretty underwhelming, but I will say this stage for Simp has actually been very underwhelming, I would say, compared to the level that we typically expect. Cellium's still generally been fine, but Metals has a 1.2, Rencor has a 1.2, Super has a 1.1, Real with a 1.1, like, you know, that was pretty much a masterclass today. And FaZe go to 1 in 2. Now, next weekend, FaZe play Falcons and they play OpTic. I think those are their 2 games. So, look, it's probably going to be a classic FaZe. They go 3 in 2 in the qualifiers, they turn up to LAN, and they make the finals. Whether they win or not, we'll see. That is probably still what happens. But I think the Thieves and other teams will be looking at this thinking, you know what, maybe FaZe do look a little bit shakier. But this is kind of FaZe classic online qualifier stuff. But next weekend is going to be telling because, you know, it's not a guarantee that FaZe make winners bracket. Usually in previous years when they've gone these 3 in 2 runs, you know, they'll start off 3 in 1 or something, right? They'll start off comfortable enough, so they'll always end up making it in the end regardless if they want to expand their map pool, right, and do a bit of testing. This, it doesn't become quite so clear, but this is the series that I'm sure everyone really wants to talk about, because after FaZe lost, I know there was lots of OpTic fans saying, oh, you know, maybe we're in an all right position, and it's good to see FaZe lose and all this stuff, and look, that's perfectly fine, right? This is fandom of sports. I have no issue with it one way or the other. But of course, after a lot of that stuff was being said on Twitter and on Reddit and on the other social medias, OpTic had kind of better have come out and won, and that they did not do. I mean, this was definitely a gunfight that if you asked Tees, you probably want to be winning. I imagine that he ran out of some bullets, but even then it was still a close game, and Falcons' hardpoint has been very, very strong. I mean, they've come into the league and everyone they've played so far, they've looked really good in the hardpoints. Pred, XNID, Priester, Arcetes, and it's crazy. I mean, Priester and Arcetes really turned up this series. I didn't expect to see it, and XNID and Pred, they brought the energy as a duo. Like, there was no doubt in my mind here that Pred was going to have a pretty damn good series, because he was always going to be bringing crazy energy to this one. Now, he didn't say anything crazy after the series. He might be saving that for LAN. That was maybe Hitch's perspective, and it is an online series after all, and at the end of the day, it's Falcons' first series win in 21 attempts. But, I mean, could you write the script for Falcons to start the year 0-20, pick up Pred, and their first winners against OpTic? Like, you could not make some of this stuff up. And the end of this game, OpTic very uncoordinated, and despite the fact that, what is this, +4, -6 is -2, minus, you know, let's say 6 again, +5, so they got outplayed by, what, 1 kill, and yet they lost by 70 odd, which is not really a great return for OpTic. Understandably, Pred was getting hyped after the game 1, because, you know, they eventually closed it out. XNID brings, I mean, man, this guy's so much fun to root for, right? Like, he brings some crazy energy. It was phenomenal to see him get the win on the board today. Dashy made a nice couple of plays in the search, and frankly, it was all Dashy that they even won the search, really. I mean, at this point, he was 6 in 4. He had a big 1 versus 2 here to get to 8 in 4. He closed out with about 12 kills. So, but it was critical that he did so, because Pred popped an ace this round. And again, it's one of those talking points, isn't it? That, like, Pred, his search and destroy for OpTic was pretty woeful, and, you know, his team play and his decision making on the map, and, you know, like, you know, I think teamwork is a crucial thing that I mentioned. It doesn't feel like it was there with OpTic, and it's not like Pred is incapable of doing so. It just felt like with OpTic, the team really just, I don't know, they regressed to the mean of their natural tendencies of just playing how they naturally want to play. There wasn't really at times on an OpTic team much of a feeling to me of, okay, this is how we should probably try and play if we want to win as a team. It was more so, you know, we'll just play in the way that makes the most sense for us individually. And that was at least how they would, let's say, revert to in a difficult series. And then you get a series like this where Pred is, you know, he's popping aces in search and destroy. You know, he's getting hyped up, right? It's only an online qualifier, but it's, I'm sure, a crucial one for Pred as well, with the mentality that he has, and for very good reason, right? And I think after this series, I've got a bit more confidence in this Pred Falcons project. I was a bit concerned, really, that Pred had gone there and he was kind of happy just to accept, you know, the paycheck and, you know, see what happens over the next few years. maybe next year they get even better, they get a better team, they pick up a couple of other players, they try and poach somebody big. That's possible, right? But after this series, it was nice to see Pred kind of have that passion again, the energy, the same way that we saw for Kenny, really. And maybe it needed him to be gone from OpTic to make it happen, but I'm sure that there's OpTic fans just sitting there scratching their head thinking, man, how did it come to this with the players that they had and, well, that they used to have, and obviously aren't there anymore. I mean, Scum was pretty mind-blown about what he was watching in the controller as well. There was a few moments here. Again, it's one of those decisions, right, to go ahead and play on the Vault. It's not necessarily something that you need to do, in my opinion, if you're OpTic. Like, this is the only map that Falcons like in control. I know OpTic aren't even that good at it, right? That's what confuses me a little bit here, is that, and then they're so one by one, they're not treading anything. Like, Scum was mind-blown. This is the map that Falcons love, right? Like, surely you gotta think. You just veto it out. And I know it's a different team now, but like, even when Falcons had their old roster, it was the same story. This is the only control map they like to play, really. And maybe it's changed on recent scrims. But OpTic can play HyDra. They can play Protocol. You know, I don't really see why they went down the Vault route, but they did. Of course, they won the control, and Exnid was massively hyped and nearly smashed his headset, which seemed like it was okay for the rest of the series. And then the final map of the series was super indicative, I think, of where OpTic presently are. And it's incredible that they've got to this point, in my opinion, because it looked like they were on the right track last weekend, and then they have a bad week of scrims. I mean, we saw their scrims, they published them, and I don't imagine they'll be doing that again. I'd love them to, but, I mean, we'll see after this weekend's. Big struggle in scrims this week. It wasn't exactly great. And, you know, there are a few difficult days, and they come into a game against Falcons, and they let aBeZy and Pred and Exnid and Priest just drop bombs on their head. I mean, this was a rotation they should never have lost, and they really let it spiral. I think that was the most disappointing thing for OpTic, really, this series, and for OpTic fans, is that, you know, they had a difficult rotation there. You then went to a listening with them, and they sounded completely dead. Like, Huke was the only one really calming anything. Shotzzy completely sounded like he'd given up. Dashy sounded like he'd given up. There was no energy. It was like I've heard them have way more energy playing 8s for $20 each than for, you know, an actual proper competitive match in the Call of Duty League. I mean, look, I like Priester, but has he been good for the last few years? No. And you've let him drop a double positive bomb on your head on the final map of the series. It cannot be a good sign. So the OpTic guys, of course, mind-blown about this. It was a phenomenal winning moment for the Falcons, right? I mean, to get their first series on the board. But as I say, you really couldn't write some of this stuff. That Falcons, after the season that they've had, making the changes they've had, get their first win against OpTic. Like, it's absolute scenes. Obviously, the CDL prepared for it. They had the confetti ready to go and everything that they put on the screen. And it was, you know, I mean, you can see Shotzy's reaction. Dashy's webcam's disappeared. Skyz' one is up at the sky. And Shotzzy and Huke, that duo on OpTic. I mean, Shotzzy looks completely shell-shocked after this series. And I'm sure there's got to be some level of self-reflection here, because after today's series, one of the big talking points is, well, you know, Shotzzy, what's going on? Because if the Warlord has been making these decisions, and okay, Kenny's out the door, Pred's out the door, both of the teams that those guys have joined look better, and as a player, though, both of those guys now look, you know, to be significantly playing better than they were before. And look, who knows if that trend will continue, but you know, the reality is that it's not like these changes are fixed OpTic. If anything, they look kind of back to where they were before. Okay, they won a map in the series. It wasn't, you know, the 0-18 streak all over again, but you can see it here. I mean, I'll play this for you guys at the end of the video. Pred bringing the energy, roasting these guys. I mean, like, you know, what a duo, man. It's actually super exciting to see this. I know that Exnid, and actually no, it was aBeZy, gave a lot of credit to Pred for the leadership that he's shown on the team and helping these guys get on the right page. And as I say, I think it gives me a lot of confidence that Pred actually maybe can lead this team to the success that they want to achieve. And as Pred says, he kept it relatively simple. Proud of the boys for the progress that we've been making. Dashy says, I mean, nothing really. GG's Miami and Vegas. I'm sure they're having some conversations tonight. And fair play to Clay. I want to give Clay some credit here, because he did that tweet the other week that said, you know, for those that talking trash on my roster, I build the best, you know, I've built the best rosters before. Just wait and see, basically. And I was like, you know what, Clay, you didn't need to say that. You must be confident to say that, because I didn't really see it. I didn't really see the vision. And it's still early days, but the fact that they've taken Heretics to 5, and now, you know, they're here against OpTic beating them in 4, it does show, as Clay says, look, we've got one on the board. GG's OpTic. We will be back next week. This was Dashy, again, looking pretty shell-shocked after the series. This was that Nasty's tweet I mentioned and said, look, Pred deserves more respect for getting us all on the same page. And, I mean, look, these are the numbers at the end of the series. aBeZy, Thieves with a 1.2, Priester with a 1.2, basically, right? I mean, the two players that you wouldn't have expected. I mean, RC's just dropped 13k damage on their heads, and Dashy still had an okay series, sure. I mean, look at the damage. Shotzzy, 0.7, Skyz, 0.8, Huke, 0.9. I mean, Shotzzy really under a lot of fire, right? After the tweets he did in January, under a lot of fire right now. And he's going to have to cope with that level of pressure because Shotzzy's not usually under much pressure. You know, he's always been the golden boy, and for good reason, right? But in this specific game right now, maybe there's an argument that the Omni movement has helped other players also improve their movement to such an extent that Shotzzy's advantage doesn't seem so great. But whatever it is, it's problematic, right? And Falcons finally got a tweet out that, you know, the green wall has fallen. I'm sure that Osama, who's their social guy, was saving this up for some time. Just to quickly browse through the final series I want to talk about in this video, we'll do Cloud9 versus Thieves tomorrow, but it was Boston versus Gentlematons. You know, arguably this could have been a 4-0, really, to Boston. I mean, I don't know how they lost this game too. They were up 5-1, then Snoopy got blown up by Cammy's RC car, and then that didn't go to plan. So it all, you know, it all fell apart really for them, and eventually they lost in the round 11. But fair play to Boston, they actually did keep some composure together, and they closed out the control, and they closed out the final hard point as well. So Gentlemates continue to really be floundering, but a big 10 points for Boston, right? Because in the context of the CDL standings, I'll just, you know, give you guys the numbers here for a second. Just, you know, 2, 3, 2, 1. We'll go to the standings. OpTic are now in 8th place at 130. They've been overtaken today by Miami and Boston on the results of today and the head-to-heads those teams have on them. So, you know, it's not over. It's absolutely nowhere near over on the performances of today. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Fucking shit on him! That fucking shit! Let's fucking